Etapu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer. This is Qesankh Keparu with another exciting video for you, and may Buddha bless you. Today we're going to be talking about how to create magical powders. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. If you're interested, I do have free ebooks for you that expand more on my spiritual teachings. You can scroll down below, click on the link, download the ebooks, and start reading today. But if you want to follow that rabbit hole, or I should say that rabbit down the rabbit hole, become a Patreon supporter. You can do so for as little as $1, $5, $20 per month. You can cancel at any time. You'll get exclusive access to instructional videos similar to this one on how to create magical powders, how to invoke the ancestors, how to invoke spirits for your protection, how to work with the oracles, how to do self-hypnosis to curb your overeating and maybe smoking addiction, and so much more. So become a Patreon supporter today. So last but not least, share this video with family and friends so we can get the revolution started. Haru Nefer. Well, I got a really great subject here that we're going to talk about, and that is creating magical powders. Now, powders have been used in ancient Africa for longest time in rituals, and in Europe also in magic, in the occult. Now, you may have seen pictures of individuals who are in the religions of Santeria, Yoruba, the Babalaos, who would put the powder on their faces and sometimes have the powders in their hand and blow it onto people or blow it onto things. So it's a very, very traditional practice and a very powerful practice. See, the powder, depending on what type it is, can change an energy vibration. You know what I mean? So we're dealing with the energetic forces here, energy. And when this powder is put at places or on people, it influences them or influences situations on a very psychic level or subliminal level, if you want to say that. And depending again on the type of powder, it could attract money, attract a mate. It could be used to curse someone or to do harm to someone. So the powders have been used for a variety of purposes, and you'll see Hollywood in their movies. They have shown you how in so-called voodoo they've used powders to create zombies and things of that nature, but that's all media propaganda. Now, what we're going to be talking about here is basically using powders for spiritual purposes, specifically rituals, and to put on our person or to put in our houses to bring us prosperity, to bring us luck, to bring us fortune. Also to bring you a mate that is just as good looking as me, who knows? But I want to go over how you can create these powders. In some videos, you may have seen me with the powder on my face. And that typically happens when I'm doing a ritual. I'll kind of bathe myself in that powder and sprinkle it on the altar. Now, when you see, as I had stated before, the Babalao, the priest or priestess with the powder in their palms and they're blowing it, I want you to understand it's not just about the powder going on to the item, but the breath, the prana, is very powerful. And usually when a priest or priestess is preparing for a ritual, they are cleansing their body, they're fasting, they're saying a mantra, and because they know that they are a conductor, a vehicle. And that, remember, these things like powders, crystals, magic wands, and incense are merely permission slips. You see, you really don't need them. When you get to a certain level of magical practice, you'll realize that you have everything you need. You come complete, your complete kit. Netta created you ready to go. But some of us have a problem believing that we can accomplish these so-called miracles and accomplish these wondrous feats. So we need tools to assist us. We need a magic wand. We need the powders. We need the herbs. But you're going to need to graduate to a point of where you no longer need those, and you don't. But until your belief system, your Sebek faculty gets there, we're going to work with these tools, okay? And one of the most powerful tools are the magical powders. Now, how do I personally use these powders? My mates, they would put the powders in the dryer, or I think it was the washing machine or the dryer. So our clothes would be embedded with these powders. I would sometimes sprinkle the powders on my bed and go to sleep. That worked. I would put the powders in my shoes. And when I would go out, for example, if I had a presentation that I needed to win an account, I would put magical oil, the bath oil on me, and then I would put the magical powder on me, which would be one either for courage or prosperity, and allow that powder to be all over my body, and then I would go into the meeting smelling like $1 million and really do well. And I want you to understand that modern psychologists even tell us this, that even if, let's say, for example, even if you didn't mix the powders and do it right, the mere idea that the powder is powerful and works has a subliminal effect upon your psyche. And it changes your state to where you shift and align to that vibrational frequency of the thing you're looking to attract. So, we used to talk about this in Priesthood about if you're pronouncing a mantra correctly or not. And it does matter, yes. And it does matter if you put the powders together correctly. But in the end, what is more powerful, and as I said, it's all a permission slip. So it's more so about your belief system. If you strongly believe in the tool, it's going to have a pronounced effect. So keep that in mind. So now let's go into some of the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a glass or a cup. I want you to get one that's copper, one that is clear and see-through. This is not the best example, but this will work. You're going to need talcum powder. You're going to need some oil, and you're going to need a little bit of the powdered incense, and you're going to need some herbs. And these herbs are going to pertain to whatever objective you're going for. And lastly, you're going to need a quartz crystal. Now, you should be working with a quartz crystal all the time, and you should have a variety of crystals, and you should be charging each crystal with an objective. So this crystal in particular, I used for prosperity, in general prosperity. There's another one I use for love. There's another one where I use for specifically for money, and another one for entrepreneurship, business success. And the way I work with these crystals is I hold them while I'm meditating and I'm reciting my mantra, and I'm charging these crystals, okay? So you should be charging your crystals in the meditative state. When you're in an alternate state of consciousness, that's the best way, reciting the mantra, because again, your body is a conductor, and the electrons, if you want to break it down to the science, or the energy is channeling into the crystal, and the crystal is absorbing it. Now, I've been charging this crystal for about 2 years now. Okay, and I pull it out whenever I need to go somewhere. I carry it with me when I'm going to have a presentation, or if I want to win somebody over, or I'm going into an important interview, or what have you. So I would carry this crystal. So do not use a fresh crystal you just bought. Make sure you're charging the crystal for the specific purpose you're going for. So if you're going for money, you should have been charging this crystal for several months. Okay, now there's a whole thing I can go into about how you cleanse the crystal. When you purchase it, you should cleanse it by putting it in spring water, or running it under. You can even run it under the tap water, but that's not for this video. We'll cover that in another video. If you want more information and more videos on subject matters like this, please become a Patreon supporter. All right, so let's begin our process. Now, here's the thing. Many magicians who have worked for years to perfect their crafts don't readily reveal their secrets to you. So you're not going to find too much of a commonality between how many magicians or how things are made. Everybody has their own special techniques and own way of doing it. I advise that, I really prescribe that you experiment, see what works for you. And what I love about magic, because I'm a very creative person, I went to art school. So I'm always thinking of different ways to do things. So I encourage you to experiment. That's what's great about magic, is because you don't have to be exact. It's not like an exact science. You have room to bend. You have some flexibility. All right. And, and if you discover something that works for you, hold on to it. And don't let nobody tell you, oh, that's not the right way to do it. If it works for you, it's the right way to do it. And you'll know it works for you because you'll see immediate results. And I used to work with my mentor, who always used to tell me when I would come up with new things, he says, well, is it field tested? Meaning, have you tried it and it had proven results? Because the worst thing you can get caught up in is theory and reading books, and the books say do this and do that, but you've never actually experimented and tried it. We have too many people who are just out there, who are in the comedic spiritual community, regurgitating information, but who have not walked that path, who have not lived that way of life. They're great at breaking down the etymology of words and history and when exactly what period Kemet fell. But when you start asking questions like, do you work with the oracles? Have you ever invoked the spirit? Have you ever done chi magic? And they don't go that far, because many of them don't believe in it themselves. And we've been caught in the Western society that elevates the left brain intellectual prowess above the actual application and the experimentation of things. So I want you to keep that in mind, that, this is not about so much, becoming the world scholar from reading so many books. It is about practice. And if you study one of the great occultists of our time, Aleister Crowley, he was doing ritual after ritual, experimentation after experimentation. And yes, he was book learned and book schooled, but he also was very, very astute in ritual ceremonial magic. So I want you to understand that's very, very important. So let's get down to this. All right. So the reason for the copper cup is because we're going to charge our powder. Now, the first thing you want to do is, again, decide on the objectives. Let's say, for example, if I want to attract money, I would go for herbs, and you'll need to go online and get a listing of herbs that specifically attract wealth or attract money. You should be able to find that. And here I just happen to have some of these herbs, and they're mixed. They're a variety of herbs. So what I do is I put them into my container, my cup, and then you would crush them. Now, this is not the proper way of doing it. You would crush the herbs until they become almost like a fine powder. All right. And the next thing I would do is I would put some talcum powder. Now, be careful, because there are some powders that are toxic. So you're going to make sure you're using the right talcum powder or the right powder. It should be unscented, just plain white powder. And you would pour it in there, and then you would mix it, and you mix it together. Okay. Now, at this point, you can add a little bit of magical oil. There's oils that attract money. You can even add a little bit of incense. This is powdered incense. You can add that in there, and making sure that you crush it. Now, the scent should be pleasing to you. If it doesn't smell great, then you got to start all over with something else. You've got the wrong mixture. But making sure everything is down to a fine grain, Now, with this, I would take the crystal that I have been charging for months, and I would place this crystal here. Now, this is what we're going to do with the copper container. We're going to sit this next to, because I have a Bluetooth speaker here. And I'm going to sit this next to the Bluetooth speaker. And what I do is I play my meditation, my mantra. And and the mantra is for prosperity and money. And what this is the copper acts as a conductor. It charges the crystals. Well, the crystal's already charged, but it will charge the crystal, and it's going to charge the powder. And I leave this for at least 48 hours. And when it's magically charged, then I take the crystal out, and then you can work with the powder. You can start, and the powder is going to be very potent. So use it right away. You can put the powder in your hand, and then put it on your face, and and everything. And I would keep it on your person for at least 24 hours. Okay. Now, the other way to do this, is to take the clear, and I would use like a glass container. This is not the greatest example. And miraculously, I couldn't find a glass container here. It was weird. You take the herbs and you place the herbs inside here. You take the powder, place the powder in here, and then you can do the oil again, or you can do a little bit of the powdered incense. And what I do is I burn this incense, and the incense smoke comes up. Then I will pass this through the incense smoke to charge it. And again, you crush it down to a fine powder. Make sure it's mixed really well. Let me just mix this. And you'll see this powder. This is the completed powder I've already done. All right, so this powder, and it's 2 powders, so you'll see 2 particular colors here. And let me just mix this up. Okay. Now, once this is thoroughly mixed, because I was working on, oops, I'm shaking the camera. I was working on 2 different powders. One is for luck, and the other one's for prosperity. So so this is my own magical formula here. And then I would take my crystal and put my quartz crystal in there. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to work with the Bluetooth speaker because it's not going to charge it properly. I'm going to set this out in the sun for 2 days. So, set it out there, make sure it's facing the sun as soon as it rises. And the sun is going to magically charge this. All right. And that's for 2 days. The other thing that you can do, which is really, really powerful, is set this out during a full moon. All right. And then it'll get charged. Remove the crystal, and the crystal is charged as well. And the powder is very potent. And then you do your ritual, do what you need to do, Now, don't go around blowing powder in people's faces or doing things like that. You can put the powder on your clothing, your bed sheets. Put it on your person when you go into an important business meeting or interview, and you're going to find it's extremely powerful and effective. Now, the 2 different things to keep in mind, I want you to understand this very clearly. If you charge it by the sun, you're going to have a magnification of its power, especially because of the crystals inside of it. It's going to magnify its power. If you charge it by the full moon, here's what you're going to get. It's going to be powerful, but it's going to have a more subtle, lasting impact on the psyche. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to be honest with you, you're going to have to do a little experimentation on which herbs are going to be potent for you, and the charging of the sun versus the moon, which one's going to work for you. All right. The moon I've seen have an effect. It is more of a more subtle, still pronounced effect, but more of a subtle effect that comes into play. And the sun has a more, again, pronounced magnified effect. So just keep that in mind. Now, there's other things to do too. I like to, before I'm ever using a powder, is shake it, activating the molecules within it, the energy within it. And then if I'm going to do a ritual, I'm going to put it all over my face, put it in my hand. Now, as I said before, when you're doing your rituals, the breath, the prana is very powerful. So what I will do is I will think of my objective. And let me give you some advanced techniques here. All right, let me give you some advanced technique. One of the techniques is because everything works through alternate state of consciousness, right? Everything works through trance. If you research ancient Kemet, ancient African tradition, trance was a very big part of all of that. So during a ritual, you'll see people twirling around and around and around. That's an attempt to get themselves dizzy or get themselves into alternate state of consciousness. And while I'm going around and around and around, I'll visualize my objective while chanting my mantra, charging my body. When I am done, I will blow the powder, because now my prana is charged, my breath is charged. I will blow the prana on my altar, so it'll be just like, You know, it goes everywhere. And you know, I'll wipe it on my person and my clothing to make sure that the energy is with me. Now, as always, I advise that you observe and look at the effect it has. There are some things that I've done in magical practice that had the adverse effect. I did a ritual once to attract a mate, and I ended up attracting people of the same sex. So you have to be very careful. So you watch and observe, and you say, "Oh, that is not working." I did a ritual once to make me more assertive, and suddenly I was attracting conflict. People were being, you know, there's a lot of fights starting in front of me, a lot of weird low lives came around me. So just be very careful and observant of how this is working, and keep your, and I have several, keep your book of charms or your magical book and write down the results that you notice. If you see things going in the wrong direction, change up your formula, get different herbs, get different oils, get a different crystal. So keep that in mind. But I want you to walk away. Oh, sorry. Last thing I want to say is this. You can buy pre-made magical powders. A lot of magical supply shops will sell them. Should you go purchase them? Yeah, they're totally fine. But what I would advise is that you do an oracle reading first to see if that powder will work for you. All right. So let us say, for example, I want to attract money. And I go to a magical supply shop and they say, yes, we have a powder that would allow you to attract money. But if you go to the Medunater Oracle, you'll find out your problem is not really attracting the money. That channel is open. The energy is flowing there. That chakra is open. But you suffer from low self-esteem and a lack of confidence. So what you really need is confidence powder, not a money attraction powder. Is that makes sense? So the thing about African tradition and working with the oracle is that we don't look so much at the symptoms, but we look at the root cause. So if the root cause is a lack of confidence, then you're going to need confidence powder. Getting the magical powder for prosperity, attraction of money is not going to help. And if you were to get it and use it, you would see no results, and then you would think, oh, that powder doesn't work. When the powder is very effective, it's just that what you needed was confidence. So just remember that, keep that in mind. You can buy these pre-made magical powders, just do your readings, go to the god, go to the oracle and ask, will this powder be effective in getting me to attract money? You know, and that's the proper way of doing it, because not everything out there works for you. Remember, you're dealing with emotions and belief systems, and those can allow the energy to flow, or they can dam it up and block that energy. You understand? So practice this as if it were a science, you know, and just understand what you're getting into. So that basically is how you would create the magical powders. So you can experiment with them, have fun with them. They're very powerful. They're very effective. And many of them will have you coming out smelling really, really nice. And women, you'll be attracting the men, and men, you will be attracting the ladies. If you get a chance, please donate to the channel. Your donations are always appreciated. And again, if you want more information on making magical powders and working with magical wands and doing all that kind of great stuff, subscribe to me on Patreon. This is Qesankh Ma Keperu, son of Ma and Tuti. Ma is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until the next video, I'm in Ra.